Did speakers of a language related to Navajo lead to the collapse of the Roman Empire? I cannot confidently tell you no. Here's why, get ready. The collapse of the Roman Empire was complex and multifaceted, but one of the things that definitely finished off the Romans was the Great Migration, or the migration period of European history. This involved lots of barbarian Germanic tribes encroaching further and further on Roman territory. But this Great Migration is thought to have been triggered by the migration of another group of barbarians, the Huns. The Huns suddenly appeared in Eastern Europe in the 4th century AD, driving other peoples west towards the Romans. For a long time, the origins of the Huns were a complete mystery, but recent genetic data has shed a lot of light on this. Historically, it was always guessed that the Huns were from way out east, but beyond that, people didn't really know. However, there were theories that they were related to the Xiongnu people of modern-day Mongolia because of similarities of their names. So English Hun ultimately comes from Greek Hunni, and then Xiongnu comes from Old Chinese Honga or something like that. It was an interesting theory, but how could we test that? And that's where the recent genetic data comes in. When analyzing the DNA of Hun-era graves in modern-day Hungary, researchers discovered a few interesting things. The first thing is that the Huns were very genetically diverse and probably incorporated lots of different peoples into their confederation over time. And the second thing was that the Y haplogroups of the elite Hun males could be traced back to the parts of modern-day Mongolia where the Xiongnu lived. So it's thought that after the Xiongnu Confederation collapsed, some of their peoples migrated west, starting the whole Hun thing and incorporating other peoples as they went. But what about their language? Huns would use the languages of local peoples sometimes, but it's also known that they had their own Hunnic language. And we know this from their foreign-sounding names and a few random words, but otherwise they didn't really write stuff down. Their language was historically thought to be a Turkic language because of some similarities between the words, and also they just sort of fit the time and place, although they're a little bit ahead of the normal Turkic migrations. However, the genetic evidence makes this less likely because the Xiongnu seem to have been somewhat genetically distinct from Turks. But a theory that's been getting more attention recently is that the Xiongnu spoke a Yeniseian language. A modern example of this would be the Ket people who live in Siberia. Multiple Hun names have plausible Yeniseian etymologies, and the groups appear to be closely related genetically. Also, the parts of Mongolia associated with the Xiongnu often have Yeniseian-derived place names. And here comes the craziest part. Many linguists today think it's possible that the Yeniseian language family is related to the Na-Dene language family of North America, an example of a Dene language being Navajo. And this is based off a lot of proposed cognates and also genetic similarity. So there you have it, a connection between the Navajo and the collapse of the Roman Empire.